do battle. He's on your right. He is playing green-white aggro against John Wells on your left, who is playing black-green Delirium. Round number 1 here from Indianapolis about to be underway. This tournament brought to you by the awesome people, as I did mention, over at Ultimate Guard. So we want to thank them for their sponsorship of the SCG Tour. As now we are going to start, Patrick, with a little Kaladesh standard action.
Can't wait to get started here. John Wells playing black-green Delirium. Very much a mid-range take on this, not going up to Emrakul or anything of the sort there. A threat and removal base, though, definitely informed by Smuggler's Copter. 4 copies of Grasp of Darkness, probably the best black removal spell, at least for this tournament, alongside Mind Rack Demon and Noose Constrictor as solid blockers.
We've got our first brand new card of the day. It is a copy of Harsh Scrutiny. It is kind of a take on Ostracize, but it'll also let you scry 1. The land that you played, well, that's Blooming Marsh. That is also a new one. That's the Kaladesh Black-Green Fast Land. John will take down the contents of Brad's hand. You're going to see a Sylvan Advocate, 2 copies of Blossoming Defense, a Westvale Abbey, all that good stuff, while scrying his top card to the bottom. And now we do head Nelson's way. He will start off with a Canopy Vista. That's an oldie but a goodie. And now we head back over to John Wells, who will play another Blooming Marsh, and now it's a Grim Flayer.
Now, Wells' deck a little bit short on Delirium Enablers, but that changes if Grim Flayer is able to hit reliably.
It's a Westvale Abbey here for Nelson, and he will follow up with a Sylvan Advocate. Wells will untap. We'll see his third turn of the game here in just a moment, and it's a Swamp that he's drawn. Couple of lands over there. We'll see if he has a removal spell for the Advocate. It looks like he does not. Just a copy of Noose Constrictor. He'll pass the turn back over to Nelson. Nelson currently has at least 2 copies of Blossoming Defense, potentially a third in his hand right now. That's a pump spell that actually both players have access to this weekend.
Yeah, Wells playing 2 copies as well. Nelson with the full play set. Solid combat spell, also solid God's Willing proxy, very versatile, and I think likely to be a staple in creature decks, at least for the time being.
It'll be fun to watch if players are playing around that spell in game number 1 or at all this weekend for John and Brad as they make their way through this tournament. Nelson will play a Forest for the turn. And it looks like he will serve in with the Advocate.
Remember, Wells knows about the copies of Blossoming Defense from the earlier discard spell.
So he will just take 2, fall down to 18, and pass the turn back. Will Nelson over to Wells, who will draw a card. Land number 4 is a Forest here for John. And now he'll play a Gnarlwood Dryad and simply pass the turn back. A land and a copy of Nissa Vital Force. Last 2 cards here for John Wells. We'll take a look at that Nissa when it does arrive. For now, we head over to Nelson.
Wells not really in a position now to engage in combat against the Sylvan Advocate, plus all the pump spells in Nelson's hand. And with the Planeswalker in hand, Wells can kind of just hang back here, play some defense, and start really leveraging the Nissa next turn.
It's an Aether Hub, which means that Nelson does have 1 energy. So he gets himself an energy counter, put a die on there. Aether Hub, a very, very, very good land from Kaladesh.
Yes. Especially for these aggressive decks that need to have both colors of mana starting on turn 1.
Here's a Fairgrounds Warden. That's another newbie. It'll remind you of Fiend Hunter, though it is not a human. It's actually a dwarf. As Nelson will pass the turn. Wells has land 5. This is 5 mana. That is Nissa Vital Force. And that is newbie as well. So 5 mana, 5 loyalty. The +1 will allow John to untap target land you control. He's chosen a Swamp. And until your next turn, it becomes a 5/5 elemental creature with haste. And it's still a land. So that Swamp right now is a 5/5, and it is attacking Brad Nelson.
Interested by this line here from Wells. With another copy of Nissa in hand, I think the line I would have selected was to plus the Nissa, make the Swamp a land, but hang back on defense next turn. The following turn, you can make an emblem and play your next Nissa, and then you're situated for a very long game. As it stands, he's putting his Nissa in some amount of risk, but with the second one in hand, he might be willing to say, all right, Brad, make an attack, maybe lose some stuff, and now I have a second Nissa to follow up.
Looks like Nelson takes that hit on the chin. He's down to 15 as we head back his way. Now, the thing about Nissa, and I think we know this, the ultimate takes approximately 1 turn to get to. So John Wells is threatening that right now. And the question, if you're Brad Nelson, is, okay, how threatening is that ultimate? How much do I actually care?
Well, if the game is sizing up to go on for a very long time, Nelson needs to be very, very afraid of that emblem. Although with Westvale Abbey and a handful of cards, maybe Nelson thinks he can hang around if the game goes long. But with the way things are shaping up right now, with both players at a relatively high life total, with the battlefield kind of settling in, I would be very nervous about Wells getting to an emblem here.
Brad is thinking attack, and he will cautiously with a Sylvan Advocate over at Nissa Vital Force.
And this attack is the reason I wasn't a huge fan of the attack from Wells last turn. I think he's very well served here to just sort of hang back.
Well, Nelson has to use 2 copies of Blossoming Defense in combination with the Sylvan Advocate to take care of the Nissa Vital Force, and maybe that's exactly what Wells wanted to have happen, because he said no blocks. He let the Nissa bite the dust, and we do know about that backup copy. You saw Nelson play a Fortified Village post-combat and pass the turn back over to John. John has drawn his card for the turn, and perhaps we'll see another Nissa, and we do. So here's Nissa Vital Force. It will again begin with 5 counters, up to 6, untap the swamp to make it a 5/5, and will John Wells attack again is the question. Looks like the answer is yes.
Well, if you thought the attack was good last turn from Wells' position, it's getting even better now because he's gotten 2 pump spells out of Nelson's hand.
So Nelson will take the 5. He's going to fall down to 10, and we'll head back Brad's way. He'll draw a card.
Gets a little bit complicated here from Wells' side because if Nelson has land number 6, suddenly the Sylvan Advocate outsizes the stuff on the battlefield, and another pump spell or some removal spell inside of combat could be really bad news. But if you're willing to make the attack last turn, I think it's become more attractive to attack again this turn. It is possible Wells feels as though he may have to shorten the length of the game here, even though it looks like he's got a pretty good late game setup because of the Westvale Abbey. His deck is not really well situated to handle that card, and he might be just trying to shrink the length of the game down.
Nelson's going to tap 5 mana. Is it time to go a Gearhulkin? I think it might be, Patrick. And there it is. Now this card right here, my friends, this is no joke. Virtuous Gearhulk is here. It's a 4/4 Trampler. When it enters the battlefield, you get to distribute 4+1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. It can target itself, it can target the Advocate, it can target the Warden. It looks like it's going to put 4 counters on the Advocate, and we'll see where that Advocate is attacking.
I would assume this is going after Nissa, but we will find out in a moment.
It is going after Nissa.
So I think the Black Gearhulk and the Blue Gearhulk may be about as powerful roughly, but they're a lot more about the texture of the format. How many good flash spells are there? Are the games slow enough and filled with enough expensive creatures that you can play playing with the Black Gearhulk? I think Virtuous Gearhulk is just, in terms of raw power, context-free, texture-free, the best of the bunch.
And only 5 mana instead of 6.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty big deal. So now Nelson has that very large Sylvan Advocate. That's a 6/7. The Gearhulk's a 4/4 Trampler. Don't forget about that trample. And the Fairgrounds Warden has got that Gnarlwood Dryad on lockdown. For Wells, he's going to play a copy of Mindwreck Demon. So he'll flip over the top 4 cards of his deck. Tireless Tracker, Grim Flayer, Noose Constrictor, and a land will all go to the graveyard. Unclear if he has Delirium at this point.
Well, I believe he has Creature, Sorcery, Land, Planeswalker.
Because Nissa did bite the dust?
Right,
Sure.
so I think he's good to go on that front.
He's going to plus the Nissa and make that swamp into a 5/5. But there are no good attacks on this battlefield, so all he can do is untap. Pass the turn back over to Nelson, and Nelson will draw a card.
But Nelson currently with no answer to what's going on in the air at 10, facing down a 5-power flyer. So even though his situation looks pretty solid here, had a very good turn last turn, he just might not have enough time.
Brad, take a look at the graveyard. Just wants to make sure that John does have Delirium. As you did mention, we have a sorcery in the graveyard thanks to Harsh Scrutiny. We've got a Planeswalker thanks to Nissa, a land and a creature thanks to the Mindwreck Demon. So the Mindwreck Demon is on. And it's another oldie. But I think this one maybe a little underplayed given its sizing.
Well, it might be well situated now. A big flyer, definitely more attractive in the world of Smuggler's Copter. Some of the Delirium enablers have gone down, or rotated out, so you might be in the market for more of that. Also, with the absence of Collected Company, we should probably expect to see fewer copies of Spell Queller and Reflector Mage, which was one of the worst situations for this card.
Sure.
So, possibly poised for an uptick.
the rotations may have changed some things here for the old Mind Rack Demon.
And we've seen this before. Desecration Demon went from dollar or dime rare or whatever, like whatever the bulk rate is, a dime rare to format defining card.
Yeah, to the real deal.
And that was just a function of rotation and cards coming in and out.
Another copy of Fairgrounds Warden here for Nelson. That Mind Rack Demon is coming with Brad, and now here are some attacks. Looks like the Gearhulk wants to attack, as well as the Sylvan Advocate. Again, we're going to see where these things are going as Nelson is gripping another copy of Blossoming Defense very tightly in his hand. We've already seen 2 this game. Keep in mind, Nelson is playing 4 this weekend. And here are the attackers. Both are going after Nissa yet again, so Brad is putting a pretty big priority on getting that Planeswalker off the battlefield.
Brad's advantage on the battlefield is enormous, and he has a Westvale Abbey to boot. So really all he needs to do is choke off Wells' sources of card advantage and ability to play a long game, and the rest should take care of itself.
Here's a block. The Swamp, which is a 5/5 from Nissa, will jump in front of the Gearhulk. Nelson does have the pump spell yet again. So now the Gearhulk is a 6/6 trampler. It will trample over for 1, but more importantly, it will take care of that Swamp. The Nissa is also dead, and all of a sudden now the House of Cards has kind of crumbled here for John.
Yes. And Nelson with the strongest tool here in terms of playing a late game now with that Westvale Abbey.
You know, we saw John have the ability to actually go ultimate with that Nissa last turn, but I just don't think it would have done very much.
He needed a land in hand. At that point, you can start to get the ball rolling. And this is why I think that should have been his path with the first Nissa that he had. Set up shop, get that emblem, play your second Nissa, grind the game down, and hopefully accrue enough card advantage to win a long game. Maybe he felt he couldn't do that because of the Westvale Abbey. I'm not sure.
Now here is Liliana, the last hope. And it is a little outsized on this board.
Although -2, -1 can do some good work here. Looks like he's going down a different road.
Looks like he's going to bring a little something back, thinking maybe Tireless Tracker is the first card that he does bring forward.
Now this felt like a pretty attractive board to get back a Gnarlwood Dryad.
It's under the Fairgrounds where I don't think that he has one in the graveyard.
I'm saying that he could use the plus on Liliana to -2, -1.
Fairgrounds Warden is a 1/3.
Oh, it's a 1/3.
Yes.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I misread that.
No
I'm
problem.
sorry. I thought it was a 1/1. Wow, this card is pushed.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
You had me at 1/1.
No,
Okay.
1/3.
Okay.
Not the best.
Excuse me.
Not the best attacker. Pretty good at doing that though.
Yep.
Which is taking care of creatures. And Nelson's going to now take care of John Wells' board, and I also think is Liliana as well. Yep, there goes that Liliana. And Nelson kind of playing combo's a bit of a stretch, but we like to use combo relatively liberally here in the booth. The Blossoming Defense Fairgrounds Warden combo.
That's a combo.
Yeah, take their creature and then protect it.
Yeah. Virtuous Gearhulk is a trampler with a pump spell. That came up
That is also a combo.
because the 6/6 went over the 5/5 and the 1 point of damage finished off the Nissa. How can you not call that a combo?
That is definitely a combo. As Brad Nelson will win game number 1 here over John Wells. Green-white aggro up a game here over black-green Delirium, which means we are going to turn our attentions to the sideboard, and we will start with John Wells, who has 2 copies of Natural State, 2 Ishkana Graph Widow, 2 Transgress the Mind, 2 Flaying Tendrils, 2 Ruinous Path, 2 Tooth Collector, 2 Kalitas Trader Get, and a singleton copy of Root Out.
So this is where it's nice that Nelson's deck is a little bit on the bigger side because you can't just go to cards like Flaying Tendrils and try to blow them out that way. Brad can play a bigger and longer game. I think cards like Ruinous Path, Kalitas, and Ishkana are pretty well suited to play a long game that's played primarily on the battlefield. I think the Transgress the Minds can fit into that as well. And I think Wells should bring in some of that stuff and probably get away from some of the smaller creatures that don't line up that well on the battlefield. Maybe even things like Grim Flater are supposed to be cut.
For Brad Nelson, 3 Natural State, 3 Declaration in Stone, 2 Fumigate, 2 Quarantine Field, 2 Linvala the Preserver, 2 Nissa Vital Force, 1 Tireless Tracker. I know we have deemed Brad Nelson's deck green-white aggro. Feels a little bit more mid-range or even control-y after sideboard.
But he has a lot of flexibility here, and I think the Tireless Trackers, the copies of Nissa, the Quarantine Fields, and the Declaration of Stones. Again, I think this is going to be a pretty protracted game that's about sizing on the battlefield, and all those cards slot in very nicely to that kind of game.
Yeah, this is a very Nelson-esque sideboard if I've ever seen one. The ability to play an aggressive game 1, and then change the way his deck plays depending on what he's up against games 2 and game 3.
Yeah, Brad really values flexibility, and especially week 1 of Standard where you don't exactly know what you're going to be playing against. Maybe people have decks that are different than what you'd expected. Maybe you've missed some key cards, whatever the case may be. Good to have a deck that can go up or down depending on what the matchup calls for.
Well, those are the options there for both players in their sideboard. Game number 2 will be underway here in just a moment. We will talk about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale, where we do have a new sale every single Monday at 11 a.m. Right now, however, we got a good one on full art basic lands.
Yeah, head over to StarCityGames.com at least once a week. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, a new sale goes up on the website, runs for a week, and then there's a new sale. Right now, sale on full art basic lands, variety of Zendikar, Unhinged, Judge promos, what have you. Go check out the website and make sure to be checking back at least once a week to see what the new sale is.
Brad Nelson, a player we are, of course, very, very familiar with. He is looking to head back to the Players' Championship for a 3rd year in a row. He did not have a very good tournament in Orlando 2 weeks ago playing Death Shadow aggro, but he looks like he's got a green-white deck here that he likes a lot, does the 30-year-old who currently resides in Roanoke, Virginia. He got 8 open top 8s with 1 open win, 3 invitational top 8s with 1 win in this building a couple of years ago. That's why we get to see the awesome Brad Nelson Trading Post GOAT token. A golfer, an avid StarCraft 2 fan, our first Players Champion back in 2014, and more importantly, a very, very, very good standard deck builder.
And it's intriguing to watch him in week 1. Most of Brad's success has come in established metagames. He's more of a metagame angle shooter, and if you ask him what's the best deck, he'll probably give you an answer of this is the best deck, I think, for this particular weekend. He's not really that much about playing a deck with what he perceives to have the highest raw power level and play it for an entire season. He play tests a ton, and he tries to find the deck that's right for the right metagame. Week 1, you don't really know. You have some informed guesses based on what the powerful cards are, and you can read articles and try to get a sense of what people are talking about. But Brad is working with a lot less information in this tournament than he typically does in the standard tournaments where we've seen him have success. So I'm always intrigued by Brad's week 1 selection because it's got to be a mixture of raw power level and best guess as to what he anticipates the metagame is going to look like.
Well, I can say that his deck, there are some very powerful cards hanging out there. You just saw the Gear Hulk. Sylvan Advocate we know is a very powerful card. And hey, Gideon and Smuggler's Copter both in deck as well. I don't think it can go too wrong playing those cards.
And this list of cards, it's almost all 4 ofs, only 2 tireless trackers. And these are all no-brainer, high tier 1 constructed cards with a resume, or there's analogs to previous cards that have showed up a bunch. The only outlier is Blossoming Defense, which is a card I believe we are going to see a lot of.
I don't think it will be an outlier for long.
Right. It's not Smuggler's Copter. It's not the splashiest card in the world, but I think this is going to be a standard staple for the next 18 months.
John Wells going to take a mulligan down. We'll see him take a look at 6 cards here in just a moment. But if you want to talk about exactly what Brad Nelson is up to here this weekend, you can do so within our Twitch chat here at twitch.tv/SCG Live. Of course, we do have a subscription program where you will get to decide the quarterfinals. You get to use custom Metacons and badges. And we'll have a bunch of more awesome stuff underway as Twitch has kind of unveiled a bunch of new stuff over the past handful of months. I'm sure they'll be unveiling some more stuff at TwitchCon here this weekend. But do join the feature match area right now. You can chat. You can talk about Brad Nelson's deck and John Wells' take on Delirium, as he's going to take a look at 6 cards, will John. He will scry to the top, and we are underway here in game number 2. Looks like it's a Hissing Quagmire, Brad Nelson with a Canopy Vista. There is the Blooming Marsh.
Oh, those pieces of art aren't similar at all. We're not going to get that confused.
No, we're never going to confuse that. No.
That is really easy to tell apart.
Nelson with a Westville Abbey, and now he's taking one from a Gnarlwood Triumph.
And it's not like that distinction matters. It's not like we need to know which one is which.
Yeah, why isn't he blocking with his Blooming Marsh? I don't understand. Well, because he can't. It's not a Hissing Quagmire. A Plains here for Nelson. And he's going to slow down just a touch. We'll see what this is going to be. It will be, yes, Smuggler's Copter. Now, Patrick. Am I supposed to make the get to the chopper joke, or do I leave that to you?
My preference, my very strong preference.
Your very strong preference, okay.
Is to go with Billy Ocean's Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car.
Ooh. You want to work some Billy Ocean in the broadcast. I have no problem with that.
Because at the beginning of the song, there's the who me, yes you. So Insolent Neonate is saying, who me? Yep. And Smuggler's Copter goes, yes you. Me. Not that I had thought about this.
Not at all. Not at all. Why would you? Why would you do that? Get to the chopper, indeed. Now, what is it? It's get
out of my dreams and get into
my car. Got it. That's what Fairground Warden is having happen here, right? A little beep beep. You saw the Warden take care of the Mine Rack Demon. That's a one-power creature to crew the copter. See, it's difficult to crew the copter. That's not true at all. It's actually very easy. That's exactly what Nelson's done.
Well, there's diminishing return issues. When you have a lot of vehicles in play, then it can become complicated. But the first one, if your deck is set up the right way, should be fairly easy.
Nelson is looting from the copter. Now, we'll take another look at this card because this card, look, if you're not familiar, you're going to be after this weekend.
You're going to want to remember the text on this card. It'll help a lot while you're watching coverage.
It is a 2-mana artifact, 3/3, artifact vehicle. It can turn into a 3/3 flyer. All you have to do is crew 1. That's a 1-power creature that will enable that. And when it attacks or blocks, you don't have to draw a card. And then if you do, you get to discard a card. Now, John Wells is trying to put up a little bit of defense here with Mine Rack Demons, which have provided Delirium. Now, the first one was taken care of. The second one has provided Delirium. It's a 4/5, ready to rock and roll. You saw Gnarlwood Dry come across for 3, not 1, because Delirium is here. For Wells, his hand looks like a copy of Grasp of Darkness and a Deadweight as we head back over to Nelson. Nelson will draw, picked up a copy of Fortified Village. And now the question is, does he have an answer to this other flyer?
Looks like he has a Virtuous Gear Hulk in hand, so maybe not an answer exactly.
Oh, you want to race?
But he can size up.
Yeah. The Gearhawk will remind you a lot, I think, of Wolfir Silverheart in some aspects.
Right.
Not in all. They are definitely different cards, but this is a very big 5-mana green creature is the Gearhawk, and I think we're going to see a lot of that too.
But the card also works solo just fine.
Oh, yeah. You can just turn itself into an 80 Trampler. There's a lot of flexibility with what the card can do. There's Fortified Village. Going to reveal a forest, will Nelson. Nelson's going to come in here, and he's going to turn on the chopper. He will get out of your dreams, and he will get into your car. Oh, now
who, me?
Yeah.
Yes, you.
Here's the Gearhawk. The Gearhawk's going to make this is it a helicopter now? What do we call it? What is this now? I don't think it's just a copter anymore. It's much bigger than a copter.
There's probably some military term.
Yeah.
We'll ask Ken Ketter.
Yeah, he would know. He would know.
Ken would know.
Yeah. That's a 7/7 copter that's attacking now, thanks to the Gearhawk, which Mine Rack Demon cannot interact with very well at all. Nelson will draw a card, which means he does have to discard a card. Bye-bye Fortified Village. 7 in the air coming across. And we head back over to John Wells. He will untap and draw. A swamp is what he's found to go along with that Deadweight and that Grasp of Darkness. Unfortunately for John, 1, Grasp of Darkness does not play very well against the copter. 2, Grasp of Darkness typically plays well against the copter. It's Deadweight that doesn't. But now Grasp of Darkness is a little too small.
You can try to hang back with the Mine Rack Demon, but the problem is that, Brad is aware of what the popular removal spells are.
Yes.
I would be surprised if he was caught off guard by a Grasp of Darkness here, where he attacked with the copter into an untapped Mine Rack Demon.
Gnarlwood Dryad, feeling a little frisky, coming into the red zone. Remember, this is a 3/3 right now. A little Death Touch action. Typically a little bit better on defense and offense, but the fact that it can go on offense, pretty nice. Makes this card pretty attractive for Delirium strategies. Swamp the play here for Wells post-combat. And now here is a Grasp. All right. So that means he'll get his Mine Rack Demon back. Doing this at a good time with Nelson tapped out. So I like the play there a lot by John. And now he's got 2 4/5 flyers on defense and looking to maybe double block the copter. We'll go over to Nelson, who I think may have just drawn another copy of Fairgrounds Warden, I think.
But now you're going to get to see the flexibility of the vehicles at work here. If Nelson doesn't think combat's good for whatever reason, he can just hang back, and Wells has to sit back with the creatures that aren't attacking or blocking and burn off a lot of mana potentially as well.
Nelson thinking Forest here. He'll play that. Don't have a great look at his hand. Did catch an eye of a Gideon. This is Fumigate. Well, this is classic Brad Nelson.
Yep.
Is what this is. So Brad's going to kill everything. He's going to gain 4 life from the Fumigate, and now he's left with the only, we'll call it creature on the battlefield there in Smuggler's Copter, even though it isn't just yet.
Cards in hand plus Westvale Abbey.
Yeah.
It's just a great setup here for Fumigate.
Yeah, it's just it's the most Brad Nelson thing of all time. He's got an aggressive strategy where he played an aggressive game 1, but he gives himself the flexibility to say, you know what, let's reset things. I've got Planeswalkers in my deck. I've got Smuggler's Copter in my deck. Love a good reset button. Here is Sylvan Advocate. Sylvan Advocate's going to get out of Patrick's dreams, get in his car.
Me?
Yes, you. Activate the Copter, draw a discard. Well, if you're discarding Sylvan Advocate, your hand's really good. Here's a Gideon.
I have a really good hunch that that joke is not going to get old.
No, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
I got a good feeling.
Yep. A dead weight stuck right now in John Wells' hand. Aptly named Magic card right now in dead weight. It looks like he may have picked up a copy of Gnarlwood Dryad, but neither one of those is going to help very much against the Copter. And that is going to do it. Brad Nelson going to win this match over John Wells. 2-0. Green-white aggro, which has the ability to take more of a mid-range or controlling slant, will take care of black-green Delirium. 2-0. Nelson looking very impressive with some of the new cards from Kaladesh.